Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness.
Hi, welcome to the podcast From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This episode is going to be about interventions. The reason why I wanted to speak about interventions today is because we all basically have learned somewhere along the line what exactly an intervention means, right? So we could start out as saying that interventions are basically hiring someone for an exorbitant amount of money to convince your addict family member that they have an issue, either a mental health issue or an addiction issue, a gambling problem, alcoholism, whatever it might be, and that they convince this person to go get help. So it's basically the opposite of hitting rock bottom, right? Now, when I called 411 in the middle of the night, not knowing what to do and how to get help for my son, that was one thing that came up, that I could go and hire an interventionist, but it wouldn't necessarily work. And sometimes they spend days upon days with this person, that addict, that needs help and doesn't want to come to that realization on their own. So it could take a whole weekend, and you don't know how long it's going to take. And then it doesn't necessarily work even after the fact. It didn't sound so promising, and it really felt kind of like, okay, well, that's a lot of money. And so this person has credentials because what? Because they have experience doing this, trying to convince someone. I've learned along the way in this process that if it's someone else besides your family member, someone from outside, maybe someone that your family knows or your addict knows that never knew that they had an issue with this or experienced the same thing as an addiction or alcoholism or gambling, that person might be a great person to bring in on their own to go talk to the addict or alcoholic or gambler. What I've learned is basically every time I've brought someone into the mix to help out, it's been someone that my son personally knew somehow or another that has an issue at one time in their life similar to what my son had gone through at that time. That was the best intervention I ever could have had, and it was for free. So there are definitely ways to do an intervention without having to pay a total stranger for something that they might have experienced somewhere down the line, but you as a parent or a family member needs to step aside. You cannot be involved in this at all. It's like when I set up people, their kids, with trying to set them up, if I tell their parents to step away, because if their parents start getting in the middle, it never works. Some reason or other, I don't know why these kids are so freaking stubborn, but they don't need you as a parent to be involved in their every step of their life. It becomes suffocating to them, and it makes them feel like less of a person. So when some stranger comes along, it doesn't feel as bad to them. So understanding that from the beginning will put this in a much better light moving forward. So let me tell you what you do need. You need to find someone in your community, in your circles, maybe someone, a friend, a relative, not even a relative, like a distant relative or a friend of a friend, someone that has had issues, mental health issues, has had alcoholism, any of these addictions, and that could come and speak to your addict. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work, but the second time around, when I had to get my son into rehab and save him, I brought in a friend who I never knew had alcoholism. He exposed that to me sometime along the way. And when I had an issue, knowing that my son had to be saved the second time, I called him thinking that maybe he can go speak with him and try to convince him of going to rehab and not coming from me. So when he did that, it worked. I mean, he went to rehab. I'm not saying it worked for the long haul, but it definitely helped. And it definitely made my son more alert at that particular moment and realizing, hey, yeah, I need help. Coming from someone like that is much better. It's much better than hiring someone for $10,000. Don't waste your money. I'm not kidding you. It's like years ago, the reason why people, I guess, used to do it is because most people were embarrassed or ashamed by what they had or experienced. So they weren't going to, you didn't even know who had these issues and was experiencing this in their lives. But now things have changed and people are definitely more apt to being open about it. Now, another place where you could find help would be possibly at an Al-Anon meeting, going, to one of these parent support groups, finding other people that maybe they have a relative that's experienced it, or maybe they have a friend that helped their kid out. I feel that intervention in this way is awesome because it's not only to get the kid into rehab or your family member or to get mental health illness help and get them to admit that they are having some issues and that they can get help. But after the fact, after they get the help, after they're on medications for their mental illness, after they're on help, they've come out of rehab and where are they in their life at the crossroads? Those are important areas of exactly when they should be getting help from these people other than yourself. They should not be calling you or putting their issues and their emotional stress on you. No. They need someone from the outside. I mean, there are people that are coaches that do this. They don't have medical degrees in this. You don't need a medical degree in this, okay? You need someone that's going to be able to associate with your addict or your mental health relative the same way as that person that comes in that's experienced it. Like me as a mom, right? I've experienced this. So when people call me or ask me for help and talking to me about what's going on in their home, and I start discussing things with them, I can pick up exactly where they're at emotionally and what they're trying to explain to me. And they don't even have to say it in so many words because I've been there. I've done that. I've experienced it. Experience it is everything. Experience is everything. So after the fact, actually, I had gotten my son to help out someone in the neighborhood that asked me for assistance with their kid. And my son, when he was sober, he would help this family with their son, and it actually changed their son's life. Now, yeah, that is a great intervention. I'm not saying it always works, but it's great for the addict when they do get clean after rehab to be able to help other people. It's enlightening, it's invigorating, and it's very lethargic. It's just helpful for them to get back into life and helps them with their recovery by helping others. So intervention to me is on many different levels. It's trying to get them into the rehab or get them to agree or understand or admit that they have a problem to begin with. Then it's when they get out of rehab or after they're on medications and started seeing a psychiatrist that they're admitting that they need help in keeping on keeping on with their medications, keeping on with their daily life, how are they going to go about their life. And then again, it's someone for them to talk to that's not a relative. These are awesome, and this is an awesome way to spend your money. $100 an hour, and can really help a person that comes out of rehab or is in a really bad place in their life where they need the assistance to get better at that particular time. Now, again, intervention also can be your kid or your family member has agreed to go to rehab or get some kind of help, but you need assistance to get them there because maybe the rehab that you decided to send them to is not going to send someone to bring them there. And you feel that that person needs assistance and guidance to get on the plane, to be there to support them, and to take them to where they're going. Totally agree. Another great way of doing intervention and having someone bring them to their rehab. Someone that they don't know, someone that's not going to make them feel low about what they're doing, maybe someone that's been there, done that. And that is another great way of using a interventionist, which to me is really just someone who doesn't know your addict, doesn't know the person, and is a total stranger. So this person who's having the issues can feel comfortable with this person and not feel like they've done something wrong, not make them feel like less of a person because they need help. This is what it all comes down to. Their insecurity. They don't need it. They don't need to see your face thinking that they've disappointed you. They already know they disappointed you. They need someone that doesn't know anything, but they feel that has been there before. And that person will be able to explain to them in the manner in which they need to hear it, which you can't do. It doesn't even matter if you're a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, you're a counselor at a high school. Step aside. You cannot solve these problems and you cannot do this intervention. Okay? Now, majority of times, there's going to be some sort of intervention that's needed on some level. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to make that decision to go and get help. So I wanted to explain that there is another solution than spending $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever they charge these days for someone to come to help with this intervention of convincing your so-called child or family member to go to some kind of help center. It's not gonna work. Don't spend the money, okay? Spend it on someone that could be there to support them as a coach. And those are the best kind of interventions you could do for yourself as well as your addict.
Thanks for tuning in. I trust this episode brought you insight and strength, offering valuable coping strategies. Stay connected with weekly content, plus follow if you enjoyed, and be sure to journal for your own self-care.